Hi there, my name is Kelley Cody Grimm.
And I'm Max Grimm.
And we are Creative Actors Lab. What we want to do is just talk a little bit about how you can bring creativity into your everyday life. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to Creative Actors Lab, our podcast. And I know it has been a minute since we've really done anything. I think the last thing was Sophia's Carol, but we have some pretty cool things that we've been working on. And we just wanted to talk about that a little bit. The number one thing that we're going to be dropping very, very soon is going to be an album of spoken word called Shapeshifter that Max, and this project's been, decades in the making?
Oh, easily, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we've got my daughter Danielle here, and she is actually...
my daughter, too.
And your daughter, our daughter.
What a coincidence. Oh.
I know, what?
Dude.
We're just going to go there, right?
Okay.
So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the project, the inspiration for some of the pieces, and then, we'll just go from there. So first thing that we want to do, we're going to go ahead and play the trailer for Shapeshifter. And again, Danielle and Max really did a lot of the work on it. I have a cameo in one of the pieces, but I'll just say as a co-creative and then also wife and mother, I was just so psyched at just how you all were able to collaborate. So we'll go ahead and we will listen to the trailer.
We shared some extremely harsh comments before I killed us, but somehow I knew I would see you again in a facet or fashion on some unknown day, reconvening to repair the damage done to our bodies from romantic affairs with poisons chased by whiskey, blurred headlights swimming against a stream of good sense and clean life, basking in shadows of pockmarked oblivion, grasping for saints in a whorehouse divine, angels in repulsive guises, speaking a Latin profane. We discourse with Satan, a lie above all, we wrench into our souls and descend.
It's a long way to go to piss off these fires and avoid standing under mistletoe, because I'll get a kiss to go along with my shoulder. I know, because it's the last catched up with that hand, just in the falling sky.
Shapeshifter will be available on May 20th at atlantafringe.org.
All right. Very cool. So, let me ask you, for what was your artistic journey writing the poems over the years?
Okay, you're asking a very long answer question.
Okay.
We got time.
We got the time, babe.
Okay, this is basically a collection of writings, mostly poetry, that I've written over the years, some of them going back to before our children were born, and everything since then. And it's always been a thing to put all of this stuff together and make a performance out of it. I mean, I've been a featured poet at a few poetry events and things like that, but to put it all into a cohesive piece, which for what we're talking about here is actually an audio piece, but it could conceivably be done as a one-person show, me being the person, in a theater, with really just like a black box. It could conceivably be done in just almost like a stand-up comic sort of thing, except without carrying the microphone around. But as far as the creative journey, all I can tell you is I've been writing poetry since childhood. And really when I became a teenager, and angsty is when I really became, as most poets do, become teenagers and they get angsty. So, and it's stuck with me always. And to be perfectly honest, my grandfather was a writer. He was never published. He only wrote letters to all of his family back in England. And I remember reading and he was a brilliant writer. He was an absolutely brilliant writer. Never published. Sidney Robinson, if I may drop his name. I remember I started writing poetry, and then I loved my grandfather, and I did not know until after he passed away that he was a writer. I just had no clue about him. And I remember right after he passed away, it was one night, it was a day or two after he passed away. And one night I had the experience of, I felt his soul pass through mine. And when that happened, he left me his talent for writing. And I picked up a pencil and paper and just started writing like immediately after that experience. And it has been so ever since.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Very cool. I love that.
I don't think I ever told you that one, did I?
Yeah,
No.
I haven't heard this either.
Yeah, okay.
What? Wow, that is really cool. I did not know that your grandfather's name was Sidney. Very cool.
Yep.
That is your great grandfather's name is Sidney. That you did not know.
But he was a writer. He but just hopefully I'm answering your question in the most expeditious way possible. But part of the whole thing is just, as I was going across these poems and writings over the years, and I was just, I got into like this cleaning out bookshelves and drawers and stuff like that. And I'm going, oh yeah, I wrote all this stuff. And then I started to collect it all, put all of the legal pads and loose leaf and whatever into one pile. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot. And it spans decades. I am now 62 years old. It spans half a century anyway. And it's just the truth, as best as I am able to tell it with as eloquent of a voice as I have been blessed to have. And I am very grateful to do this project. I'll just say that the name Shapeshifter comes from the idea of, like, as I'm going across all these poems and I'm seeing all these different places in my life and different times in my life that I had written these things, and I sort of saw this evolution of myself through my poetry over the years. And as I started putting these poems together, it's like, okay, this one would work next, well next to this one, and this one would work well next to that one, and out of a very not a very unchronological order. And it just came apparent to me. It's like, I'm going from this one person to another person to another person to another person, who are all me at various points in my life, in my existence, and my evolution. And it's just, and I've had this great fascination for years of the shaman, and particularly in terms of just the shaman being not only the medicine men and the holy men and people like that, but they were the storytellers. And just because storytelling is so ingrained in our DNA as human beings, and one of the qualities, or one of the powers, or the cities, or whatever you wish to call it, of the shaman is to shapeshift, and is to go for, and the story and the legends and the folklore go from the shaman can turn into a jaguar and a python and an eagle and all that sort of a thing, which I find so fascinating. But I just looked at it, and just from my own life, I just looked at, these are the different incarnations of me in the different time, and it just seemed like Shapeshifter made the most sense.
All right, very cool. All right, so Danielle, let me ask you about the backstory on putting it together.
I want to say something.
All right,
but
so
no, you say what you need to say, and then I have something.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know, where do you want to begin when it comes to I guess when we were, I think there was like one night, because usually we like to just sit in the garage and just, have like a lot of conversations and talk. And he was mentioning, he had mentioned a while about wanting to do a one-man show to of some kind, either have it, kind of being the traditional one, for one in the theater. And, I was, in a way kind of pitching, some of these concepts. Because I mean, putting together a live show is a lot of work. It's a lot of money. And, part of me, when he was suggesting this, actually, had like an idea. Because like, for anyone who doesn't know me, I also do screenwriting and filmmaking too. I had written and done like a short film called The Demonies that got some some kind of like film circuit. But originally I tried to like pitch, doing a one-man show kind of in an abandoned theater. Basically we would do like this, and it would be more, and like we could like physically film instead of having to like, having to rent out theater. Like I feel like we do, but I think for right now, just, and I was having a lot of ideas because, I really, he had mentioned a lot of poems and art, and, I really wanted to, find a way to, produce this in some art form or fashion. And basically one day he had suggested that, I'm going to enter into the Fringe Festival.
Yep.
The Fringe Festival, I think this was like January or February.
This was some months ago, yeah.
Yeah, this was some months ago. And originally we had tried to like look into like and to like get it into like doing one of like an actual like showpiece piece, but it would have been a lot of I mean like no diss or anything to the Fringe Festival, but we ended up actually filming or actually going towards the audio competition.
Yeah.
Because it was way more way more affordable,
accessible.
It was more accessible to do that. And yeah, but I guess the last thing I would say is, when he had mentioned, okay, I'm going to enter in the audio festival, and I'm like, okay, like I didn't think much of it. Like I was also like in the middle of kind of writing a bunch of like screenplays and stuff, and also figuring out vocals wise. And when you mentioned then, I'm like, okay, let's do this project. And I'm like, and because like last year I put out like a project called the Demonies, which was kind of like a 2-part kind of like pilot episode / kind of Halloween special. And we had recorded it with Dad with yes, because he's known as Dad to me, where he played kind of like this demon character. Like in the Demise, if you don't know, it's about like it's a horror podcast with a family of vigilante serial killers, but he played multiple roles and, just helping me a lot and really flexing his creativity, especially when he played this demon character. I mean, and also editing, and just editing his voice was so interesting, and putting all this reverb on. I'm like, okay, this can have so much power, with just, his voice alone, and, wanting to, make a project, where an emphasis on his voice, like, I mean, I'll go into this later, but just, I've been also wanting to make music again for a while, because I was more focused on writing, and, doing this project in a way would really help me get back into making music.
What I want to say, okay, so the story of this is, as I said, I had these multitude of writings over the years, and as I started going back across it, I'm like, wow, I wrote this. What space was I in at the time when I wrote this? So what I thought is this, it's very important that this type of material get out there, because it does get into the subjects of like addiction and mental health. And there's of course, all the good poetic things, and there's the romance and the lyrical, things like that. But it does get into some very heavy topics, and I thought it was very important for me to not pull punches in this, to not self-censor, and just put this stuff out there, and people are going to make of it what they make of it. And that I have no control over. And that's something I think finally at my age, I'm finally getting good at. I remember Tennessee Williams, I said something to the effect of, the hardest part of writing is letting go of your little darlings. And so here I'm taking all these parts of poetry and putting them out there. And the thing I will say that there's the differentiation between doing a show like this and then doing a show as an actor playing a character, in that the actor as a character has got a veneer. They've got a mask they put on. They have, it's like, this isn't really me. I'm just playing pretend, and so there's that sort of like safety net. There's no safety net with this. This is me. This is, I have a story about in there about the last time I ever did cocaine. There's some heavy material in there, and there's some light stuff too. But I found that it was a great amount of gravity to do this and do it right. And I really had to get myself in the right headspace to do this. And we were going to, and we'll talk about where we recorded this. Actually, it was the Gwinnett County Public Library. Thank you so much, Gwinnett County Public Library. They have a production facility with microphones and computers and green screens. It's beautiful. Gwinnett County, thank you so much. Basically, we had to have this done by the end of March. At the end of February, I became incredibly ill. I don't know. I don't know what it was. The rest of the family did not get it, but I was, according to my wife here, the third sickest she has ever seen me in 33 plus years.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I bet it's without a lot of, it was a gastrointestinal thing. It was really bad, to the point that I didn't sleep for 6 days and I had lost my voice at the point that we were going to start recording this. And I mean, I am flat on my back with the gastrointestinal thunderstorm from hell and no voice. I mean, even if I had I had maybe 5% of just my regular voice. Forget about an actor's voice, a poet's, an orator's voice. I just did not have it. And, but I'm going to say, during the course of this, Danielle and I had spoken about, okay, I want you to record this. During the course of this, I would be laying in bed, flat on my back, sick as sick can be. And Danielle comes into me and is saying things like, okay, Dad, so I made up this atmospheric background music and I did some beats for this song and I was looking at this poem and I put this, and I'm just looking going, and nobody asked you to do any of this. This was of your own steam and volition. That was it, and that was it. And for as miserable as I was, and I'm very grateful to say, yes, I'm fine now. But it was about 15 days before I could really get back to being myself again. And that whole time that I could really do just about nothing, you carried the torch for this. And without you, this would not have happened. And I am so grateful. And just during the course of this, how you took care of my sick ass during the middle of all this, and you and Amber taking care of me in the middle of all this, and you making sure that the project went on. And, when we got into record the thing, I think we did it in
three sessions.
Yeah, in like 3 90-minute sessions. I was just like the old punk rock. We're gonna rail this thing out, people, and I just during the course of this, and it's not, I will say this, as we go on here, as we're recording this right now, it's called the Atlanta Fringe Festival. Let me do a little atlantafringe.org, and we're going to be, it's just, I'll be publicizing this in the next, bit of time here, but this is the first thing we're actually saying about it. But it's a Creative Actors Lab presentation, and I'm so grateful to be accepted into the Atlanta Fringe Festival. If you don't know what the Fringe Festival is, it's like these arts festivals that go on literally all over the globe. And so many people have been in them, and there's so much, it's all about new work and new voices, and just really just the whole, art for the sake and the beauty of art. And I'm so grateful to have been accepted into this. And, please give it a listen. And if you like it, please say so. If you don't like it, hey, it's cool. It's from the heart. and it means a lot. And just to create this thing in and of itself is such a joy and such a blessing and such a catharsis to finally get this stuff put together in this particular fashion and format. That in and of itself is amazing, but just to go through this, being knocked flat on my butt for 2.5 or 2 weeks or whatever it was, and you guys continue carrying the torch for it. And I just, if I start to say thank you now and just put it on a loop and repeat it, in about 10 years, it'll express how grateful, because this would not have happened without you guys. And I have been known to be a kind of a tough person sometimes, but this one took me right out. This one took me out. My family kept it going.
Well, thank you. And Danielle, do you want to talk a little bit more about going to the recording studio at the library and then going from there?
Yeah. So I guess when we had recorded this, we did this on Audacity, which was kind of like a really so I'm gonna go into like software and just soundscapes, but we kind of basically just recorded this on Audacity at the library, and it was so interesting through like these recording sessions, and a lot of them he would do in like 1 or 2 takes, like because originally he actually had some stuff pre-recorded for me. Like I think this was done like a few years
ago. That was from years ago.
Yeah, that was from years ago, and I had looked at it, and it's just I felt like for what I was trying to create, I felt like we need to go into the library and just re-record this with a fresh ears, fresh era, just all new. And we did this in basically 1 take. A lot of these 1 or 2 takes. And it was so funny because I don't know if y'all ever been to the Gwinnett County Public Library, but basically we did this in a room, and it's not isolated. It's really next to the general public, next to like where the computers are.
There's a big old window so everybody can see you.
Yeah, and like like Max or my dad can really project really loud, and especially if you've heard any of these poems, and the dark, kind of like
intensity,
some of the almost I don't know, would be insulting to say unhinged kind of stuff, and just and it was just interesting, like also kind of looking out, like sometimes I would see like someone just like look and be like and then just walk past. I mean, it was so funny, but it was a cool recording experience, especially also recording one piece with mom right here, because it was supposed to be like a couple fighting. And y'all, not to expose you, but y'all never really fought too much. And just it was so funny seeing that, like in real life, just having them, kind of do this piece. And just it worked really, really well.
And she just cusses me out in that too.
Yeah, too. Yeah, me. When you hear it, she's like, "Fuck you, asshole!" And it was just so funny to see, and it just good, the chemistry.
Yeah, and I think kind of like I can't believe that when we did the Taming of the Shrew. That was like 2011, 2012. So that was a minute ago when we were recording that.
Taming of the Shrew, or I don't know. Could you give some context to the listeners?
Oh, yeah. Well, we had just, Shakespeare. So there was like this art center, and I think you had met some of the people there, and they were just doing afternoon art things.
Oh, yeah.
In a little 5 Points.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so... we had done Taming of the Shrew, and the thing about Taming of the Shrew is it can be a very physical play, and Patricio and Kate can really go at it. And the thing that really impressed me with that, just as a performer, is the person who is your scene partner. There's got to be a high level of trust, because if I'm going in and, and I'm like trying to get at him and he's picking me up and moving me over and things. There's got to be a high level of trust knowing we can actually go into it a little bit more because that level of trust is there. And you don't have to hold back as much because I know, because I care, I can go this far and then you're going to match that, but we're not going to hurt each other because there's that trust and that mutual respect. And, just as an actor, I think that's really important, just to know. Sometimes you get people who are, and I don't mean to knock method people, but people who are method is like, oh no, you got to make that impact so they can have that real reaction. It's like, no, I trust Max to, if we're getting there and he's picking me up and telling me no, that he knows exactly how to do it. And we've rehearsed it through, but I trust him that we're going to be able to do that over and over again within a performance.
Well, I mean, being honestly together for as long as we've been together,
Yeah.
I would hope we have trust off stage more so than on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no.
But when you are playing, when you're a couple and you're playing adversaries, it's not like you have to rehearse or do a lot of the other stuff that most other actors would, not like rehearsing, but as far as the physicality goes.
Well, you got to do your blocking, you got to do all that.
Yeah.
But it's very it can be very difficult if you have scenes like that, or and you don't trust your scene partner, or they're just flaky. And I mean, I've had people get on stage and in physical scenes and just flake out and lose it, and it's one thing if it happens on camera because somebody can yell cut, but when it happens in front of 400 people live on stage, it's not so funny in the moment, I'm reading a book right now. It's called We Need Your Art. And, we talk about, trust between scene partners and acting. You really, a concept that's being put across to me in that book I think is so interesting is you've got to trust yourself as a creative person. You've got to trust yourself that, you're going to put the art out there and it's not going to be perfect. It's not, and we're all going to make this and all that sort of thing. But you have to trust as a creative person, whether you're an actor, a painter, or a chef, or a programmer, or whatever you are, you have to trust yourself to put your art out there, and it's going to wind up where it needs to be. Because you really only have just so much control over what happens to what you do in the world once you put it out in the world, and then the rest of society and the population can start criticizing and critiquing your output. You have no control over that. But at the same time, you really have to trust yourself to just take your art, put it out there. It will wind up in the hearts and minds of the people that it's supposed to wind up in when it's supposed to wind up there. And you just have to trust that. And that can be sometimes very damn difficult. But I would just tell you, if you're going to be a creative person, whatever your creative thing is, you have to love the process. You have to love the rehearsal. You have to love the, spreading gesso on your canvas. You have to, love going into the dark room and with the paper and the chemistry. You have to love sitting at the keyboard and having the inspiration come to you. You have to love the process because you don't have any control. Once you create your product and you put it out there, you have no control. And if you're doing this only for the applause and the accolades and the money, I wish you luck. But you're not going to be doing this very long because it just, if you love the process, just keep doing that. Follow your heart, follow your passion, love the process, and everything will work out. Eventually.
I absolutely agree with that.
Now,
so Danielle, I have been blown away in listening to things like the Damani's and then listening to what you did with Shapeshifter and all the sound. I mean, because, hey, I've had to edit our podcast in the past. I would edit and do stuff for Sophia's Carol when COVID first started and we had our acting students. I decided, hey, let's do War of the Worlds, and everybody can record it and send me their sound file. Oy vey. I freaking vey. That was a tall order.
Yeah.
And I realize now, no. When you have something, and I'll plug Riverside. When you have something like Riverside where people can plug in and it can either be their phone or whatever, it really does help you even out a lot of the soundscapes. But really, I was so impressed, Danielle, with all the different layers and levels. And sometimes I'd be looking and going, you've got like 10 different levels on here. Holy moly. So, tell us a little bit about that.
All right. I guess to start this off, like originally, when I was like 16, 15, I'd started to kind of do music, around that time, like originally it was kind of like more poppy kind of sounding stuff, like, almost like adult contemporary, but I learned how to compose music, on this like software called flat.io. It's basically for like sheet music to like write and compose in. But I would do like a bunch of these compositions, and also try to learn how to sing well in that. But eventually I kind of transitioned into like wanting to do writing, especially like writing books and screenwriting. And so I guess like music for me kind of took like a bit of a backseat, but for like the past few years, I had tried to like do a lot of screenwriting and filmmaking and various, either kind of projects, trying to, find some sort of like some meandering success with that, I'm not going to lie. I actually, with the Demanis, I tried to like pitch it around to like certain producers, but just nothing really came about it. And I wanted to produce some sort of it, so I had managed to find some studio time, a bunch of actors, and we had made this. And
you, prior to that, though, you had done a sizzle reel,
sizzle reel. Yeah, filmmaking. It was done through like LA Reels with Brett Noon. Shout out to him; he's amazing. But like I just wanted to produce this, so I kind of just got a bunch of voice actor friends, some of them kind of actors, and rented out Atlanta Radio Theater Company.
Another wonderful bunch of people.
Yes.
Thank
you. Huge shout out.
Yeah.
Yes, if you're in kind of North Georgia,
and you really want to be able to do something, whether it's just having something like this where you can actually have 4 microphones. But it's more for performance. And if that's something you want to do, that you just want to try, I can tell you their prices are way less than a lot of other recording studios.
Yeah. Well,
and
they're just good people who do good work.
Good people, absolutely.
But ultimately, I had wanted to release this in October, and I took like a few months to like record, to basically edit together the entire thing, multiple kind of layers, in a way kind of tackling like one scene a day. And basically it really helped me kind of get back into the flow of like, okay, this is where structure wise. And I did this all on Audacity, by the way. And a lot of producers and other sound engineers are really like snobby about like, oh, you should do this on Pro Tools and,
or Adobe Audition.
But I mean, like Audacity was easy to use for me, so I did both of that. And when and I used a lot of sound effects from artlist.io. Basically when Dad mentioned this concept, and we were kind of like a month and a half out, and I'm like, oh shit, let me start putting together some tracks. So I was like looking at like a ton of different like experimental ambient tracks on Artlist, downloading them. Like some of them I would like make like a soundscape of, some of them I would kind of like chop them up and sample them, because I'd been wanting to get into back into music production for a while, and having this honestly really gave me an excuse to really flex my creative muscles, and putting together so many like ambient tracks. And and no shade to the library, but I mean, we didn't do this at traditional recording studio, and basically finding ways to because honestly, reverb and noise cancellation and delays honestly saved the hell out of me with production, and also really getting that sound, that especially for Max's vocals, just adding that reverb to it just really adds a more kind of ambient, kind of godly kind of energy. And and I would experiment around with different styles too. I think originally I'd want to start off with kind of a meditation countdown. My concept was kind of because I'm a sucker for a good intro track on an album, and it's kind of okay, this is kind of counting down into this whole story of shape shifting. Originally some of them were kind of more ambient, but then I would also use again flat.io to make drum beats in them. And I also I think there's when I even experimented around with kind of a vaudeville kind of piano sample that I found, and I would kind of just mix around with sound effects and just kind of layer them, layer two sounds in different pads on top of them until till I felt like it sounded in a way I wasn't trying to sound good. We're going with its own unique weirdness, and just experiment. Honestly, experimenting and experimental music was really, I guess, the target for this, because I mean, if when y'all hear this, it's out there, but but it'll be a memorable experience. But kind of because I was looking at the poems, and I'm okay, this is kind of what I would see for some of the soundscapes of it, that vibe. I really tailored the tracks to what Max ended up performing on, and what kind of style he brought to it, and then kind of adjusting. And I'm okay, this works better here, this works better there. And then because I think I remember when honestly, we finished this 3 days before the due date, but when I put it all together and I played it for my sister Amber and also my mom, and just hearing this, I think you actually cried.
I did.
When you heard the end of this,
I was so happy that this came into fruition, and that you actually got to express all this beautiful poetry and perform it. And as your life partner, as your artistic partner, as somebody who's known you for, a minute, a few decades anyway, just to be able to see this, and then the beauty of having my little girl help me with it. And to me, it was just this is the best.
Okay.
This is the best.
I want to say a couple things. Okay. Number one, I suck at accepting compliments.
Me too.
I'm so bad. I'm terrible. I suck. The other thing I want to say is I had some voice training. I was a stage trained actor. I mean, it was I came up in the day where there was no microphone. There was no little PZM microphones on the stage. There was none of that stuff. And it was just so. I mean, I learned how to belt. I learned how to, have a really big stage voice. And the thing I find very challenging when I get in front of a microphone is to not blow out the speakers.
Yes.
And it's I swear to God, I've had to where it's I've got to have a microphone here and I've got to be literally 10 feet away from the thing. And I just, and during this, it's I'm figuring out how to kind of regulate the voice, because it's everything, it's just standing on a stage in an empty theater and doing all the tadika tippet pippet and big black block and all those old school voice exercises that I love so much. However, I blow out microphones, and I was very grateful in this to try to just get my microphone technique better in that way. But the thing more so than anything is that you are aware of this with me, and you, for whatever reason, you have always had a really good ear. And I mean, I've known you for a minute, and I remember you listening to Persian music when you were 4 years old. I remember you were 4 or 5 years old. I got you into J.S. Bach.
Joey
Okay,
Amos,
well, and
David Bodie.
and you used to go. I mean, when you were a baby, you used to go to sleep to Radiohead, Tori Amos, and David Bowie. And so I mean, you've always had a very good ear about that, and it's you've just always had that, and it really shows in this project. But I mean, also just you know this challenge I have with a big loud mouth, and I got able to where it's like, God, I can leave it to
Yeah, and I think
but
Danielle and
before
having both sound edited you, it's like, yes, we can both relate.
and it's like I'll just sit there and I'll get in front of the microphone and I'll just start to do just like little warm ups, and I'll be watching the little thing and it's like blasting all the way into the red, and I'm like, oh God, dial it down, really,
Conversationally.
but but anyway. But no, I mean, I've seen you to where it's like, you've always had that, I guess, auditory sensibility is what I want to say. And just as because and just as I've watched you, it's like, when you discovered Miles Davis, and when you discovered Curtis Mayfield, all this other stuff. And I mean, I've always tried to be a very responsible musical parent with you and show you, this is, Lou Reed, the Velvet Underground, and this is Tchaikovsky, and this is, Sun Ra, because I've always really, because I've always been aware of that sensibility that you have. And I've always just tried to filter as much, different music to you as possible. So,
And I've also in a way been showing him like a decent amount of like rap music, like good rap music,
the good stuff. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, another
Kendrick.
Yeah, and also
JPEG Mafia.
Yeah, JPEG Mafia. I guess like just wanting to complete this project was also just like a part of it was like anxiety of like, oh God, what if I don't get this done? And just wanting to be like, my fear of like, oh God, this is just gonna be a concept. But we did it, and I mean, honestly, doing this project has really also made me want to release more music and want to get back more into. I mean, I feel like I could mention so much about stuff I'm working on right now, but you'll see it soon.
Yes, you will.
It's exciting for that. Just as we're talking about what's next, speaking of different podcasts, Max and I are working on, I've been working on scripts for those of you that don't know, my other job is working at Southeastern Railway Museum. And what's kind of cool there, being a history nerd, is we've got 2 cars, and my office overlooks a car that Warren G. Harding rode in. And it was actually the last car he rode in, and his coffin got taken through the country. And then FDR's Marco Polo. So I was thinking, what if you had a high school newspaper reporter and editor who could talk to spirits from history and just kind of bring that relevance to it? So that's something that we're going to be working on, is called the Spectral Summits. And I'm really excited to be able to bring that and just, bring in some of the actors that we've already worked with, which is really cool. And, just learn from history and processes. And Danielle's looking forward to seeing. I'm on my 3rd draft of this first script because I've gotten so much good feedback, and things that I've got to change. And kids, as we've talked about in screenwriting, it's okay to change. It's okay to go, that's not working, and respecting that process. But that's some of the stuff that we've got coming up. Anything else?
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I'm kind of working on some music. I'll show it to you when I will. And we will have another special podcast about that. Anything else you guys want to say to close out? Okay, well, thank you all so much for listening. We really appreciate it. We will be dropping that
album pretty soon, probably in the next few weeks, wouldn't you say?
On May 20th.
May 20th.
Oh,
All
Oh,
right.
thank you. Okay,
Yeah, May
I wasn't sure
20th.
about. Okay, thank
Okay.
you. I wasn't sure about that.
Yes, May 20th at Fringe Festival Audio on Spotify and AtlantaFringe.net.
Once it does drop, we will include that link in the show notes so you can go ahead, click, and listen for yourself. And let us know what kind of feedback you have. But anyway, guys, as always, thank you so much for listening, for being part of that creative process, and giving yourself the grace to be creative. For Creative Actors Lab, this has been Kelley.
And Max.
And Danielle.
And Danielle.
All right. Thank you guys so much. You have a good one, and we will talk to you next time.
Be well, everybody.
We appreciate you guys tuning in, and keep in mind that you can catch us on our social media, Creative Actors Lab on Instagram and Facebook, and by the same name on YouTube. And for more on what we do, you can go to our website,
CreativeActorsLab.com, all one word. Thank you for listening. Stay curious, make art, not war. Much love until next time.